we can have some bit of chat about what went on at the local mayor meeting for us here in Dubbo. We had a bit of a topic or two to speak about.
I find it interesting, Chris, that you call it the local mayor meeting. You'd call it a council meeting.
Oh, well.
So it's not about the mayor, it's about the council.
Okay, well, let's just get this one all right. Okay, the local council meeting.
There we go. So we did it on Wednesday night this week. Normally it's a Thursday night meeting, but of course we had Anzac Day on Thursday, so we thought that would be highly inappropriate to have a council meeting on Thursday evening, so we did it on Wednesday evening beforehand. And Chris, this was the longest council meeting that I've ever done in terms of Dubbo Regional Council, and I can't remember in all my time on Dubbo City Council having a council meeting that finished so late. We didn't get out of there. This one was in Wellington. We didn't finish till just after 11 p.m. Started at 5:30 p.m. and it's quite unusual. Normally a council meeting I see would be finished by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So there was a lot on the agenda and a lot of debate about a lot of the items on the agenda as well. So it wasn't just a big agenda. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, which is healthy. It's great to see that, and people obviously tune in and watch some of that. There was a fair bit in our confidential component as well, a few tenders that were awarded, so there was a bit of debate about some of those as well. So good, healthy debate, but a late night, especially when we had to get back from Wellington to Dubbo, and then of course we had the dawn service the next morning up again with a number that started at 4 in our time to get up, to get down to dawn service nice and early.
And of course that's well past your bedtime.
Well, not really past my bedtime. I normally don't get to bed till after midnight.
Really?
Yeah, with normal work that's got to be done. But I don't normally get up with a number that starts with a 4. So it was a busy night.
A very important day yesterday.
It was indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and great to see the crowd. Sorry, Chris, just on that.
No,
great to see the crowds. The dawn service, just looking around there, fantastic to see so many people, several thousand easily. And then the 10:30 a.m. service, the main service. Again, I would have said 5,000 easily there, and it's a very nice event, and the RSL sub-branch run that event. Council is just there to support them, but I think the RSL sub-branch did an excellent job this year, as they do every year, and just again, great to see so much support there.
Well, it's good that people do remember all the tragedy that went on in wars, and we remember them on our special day.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, so Macquarie Conservatorium update, what about that?
Well, this is an interesting one. You may remember there was a bit of controversy, a bit of debate about this back in around March and April last year. Council finally resolved on the 27th of April last year to lease them the old Carpet Court building, so that's the building next to the theatre, and lease them that for a peppercorn lease. So in the resolution from Council, we said, and you may remember there was a discussion about maybe giving them an interest-free loan. They were having to move out of their current building. The Department of Education had given them a time frame to move out, and so they had to find somewhere else to move to. They've been looking around at that, and they came to Council and said, can you please help us out? And so again, Council talked about that in different ways of helping them out. And in the end, they said, we'll lease you the Carpet Court building for a peppercorn lease, so effectively $1 a year for 5 years. At the end of that 5-year period, we'll then do a review of that rent and see what might be appropriate in 5 years' time, and then give it to you for another 5 years by mutual agreement. So that was the resolution from Council, and we thought as councillors that they would sign that up as soon as they possibly could, because they were under pressure in their current arrangement to get out, and they needed to do a fit out. They had about $1 million sitting in the bank. They needed to do a fit out of that building to make it appropriate for them to be able to teach music there. So Council, very supportive of the Conservatorium being in Dubbo, because obviously it's an important facility we have here in Dubbo.
Indeed.
Our staff went along then to sign the lease, and there were a few discussions back and forth. That's fine, that normally happens. And it dragged on and it dragged on. Now they were definitely going to have to be out of their current arrangement by the end of last year. And it dragged closer to that date, and it got to the point where the end of the year came and went. And I know, speaking to our council staff, I said, what's going on? And they said, well, they don't want to sign. They've still got some issues with different parts of it. And in the end, I thought I should step in, so I did, and I sent a letter through to the con and said that we needed to get this finalised. We needed to bring it to a head, because we can't leave a building there just sitting there vacant while they work out whatever they're working out. The disappointing part from council was that building, we estimate we could lease out for about $56,000 a year. Now, we'd made a decision to effectively donate that amount of money to the con in terms of that free lease, or that $1 a year lease. It finally got to the stage in April this year, so the council meeting was only 2 days ago. On the 11th of April this year, the Conservatorium sent a letter through to council to say, we no longer require that building, thanks very much. And so we then resolved at the council meeting on Wednesday night to then put that out to the market. Again, I would suggest that it's a bit disappointing that we did give them that offer, and that was an offer to lease to them, and a year later, almost a year later, they finally decided they didn't want that offer. So that's really $56,000 that could have been in council's coffers that wasn't in council's back pocket because we had that lease and then the con didn't use that. So I think overall that experience has been a bit disappointing. What we learned from that as a council is the next time we make an offer like that, when we put out some sort of offer for a lease or whatever deal it might be, we'll put a time frame on it. We didn't think we needed a time frame in April last year because it was all urgent. It all had to happen because they were being moved on almost imminently. So we didn't even contemplate putting a deadline on that offer. But I think now going forward, any offers like that we'll make to any organisations, I'm pretty sure councillors will have learned from that experience and say, well, let's put a deadline on that. For example, last year, if we had have said, you need to sign that lease up within a month or within 3 months, that would have been reasonable and things would have started to happen. But because it was left and just floating, it dragged on, and again, that's my disappointment, is $56,000 we could have had. So we'll lease that now to anyone. That'll be on the open market to be able to be leased out. And I don't know the exact amount. That was an estimation in our business papers of $56,000. So whatever the amount will be, and we'll make sure we get that leased out as soon as possible.
Well, the music will continue though.
Well, the conservatorium, importantly for Dubbo, will still continue in its current site. Again, how long for? We don't know. It's not our business to run. It's not our responsibility. The conservatorium will basically continue to negotiate that with the Department of Ed.
Okay, well, what about the bulky waste service here, to the community? Tell us a little bit about what was that happening in the meeting.
So council resolved to go ahead with a trial. Now, you'll know from our existing bulky waste pickup, there'll be one time a year, your zone will be nominated for a certain time frame when we do our bulky waste pickup, and you know to have your bulky goods out before that date. Now, some people say that it's the biggest trash and treasure pickup in the community because it's basically all over the place. People go around and pick up bits and pieces from stuff they see out on the footpath, and there's a fair bit of messiness that's involved with that. So we've had a proposal put forward by our staff in conjunction with our contractor to say maybe a better way to do it, and this is being used in other communities as well, rather than just one date, you put it out that date, that's it. You actually do it via a booking service. So essentially you book online or you ring up and say, can I please book it in? You'll still only get it once a year, but you'll have multiple opportunities throughout the year. So for example, approximately, and I can't tell you the exact timing yet, but approximately on a 2-month rolling time over the 12 months, you'll have your area as a designated area, and then you can book it in that time frame. So for example, it might be July, or it might be then skip August, September, then skip November, October, then go to November. So it might be every second month you've got the opportunity to ring up and book in a bulky waste pickup. Again, you only get one throughout the year, so you're not getting additional services, but it means there's a bit more flexibility about when you can do it. There's two things from this. One is our hope is that it'll be a bit cleaner around the city, so you don't have one time frame where lots of stuff's put out, because you'll be able to book in when they come and pick up. And the second thing is it'll save us a little bit of money. Now, not huge savings at this stage, but we think as we refine this model, you'll be able to get some savings, or you might be able to get to the stage where you can have more than one pickup a year and you can ring and book that in, but you'll get charged a small fee for that extra pickup. But at this stage, starting from the 1st of July, for 1 year only, you'll pre-book that pickup for your bulky waste.
Will there be a time period for the people to communicate with you about when they want their rubbish picked up from the street? So
you'll have your zone will have a certain time, so there'll be certain allocated dates in your zone, and then you'll ring up and book that in. And again, I can't tell you the exact timing yet, but you'll ring up today and it'll be picked up in 2 days' time or next week, that type of thing. But you'll know it's a booking, so you know you don't need to put it out weeks in advance like many people have done in the past. They will need to put it out when it's going to be picked up. So it means there'll be less mess around the city when the bulky waste is happening, bulky waste pickup's happening. Cost saving to the community.
Well, that'll be a good thing to do, actually. I think the zoning and telling when you want it picked up is a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure that it'll be dramatically better than it was in the past, but the idea of the trial is to let's see how that goes. The main thing here will be the communication with the community about when that bulky waste pickup is.
Okay, well, next topic is the renaming of the Legacy Shared Pathway.
So the Legacy Shared Pathway is a very strange name, and it's because of the funding, the grant program that was available, that it's called that. Now, we've just called that more or less internally. It's ended up being what it's described as externally. Now, this is the new shared pathway that you remember weeks ago, and that's along behind Ollie Robbins Oval, down the back of, say, Church Street and Wingewarra Street, that section down there. And it's wonderful. I ride my bike regularly around Trackaryley Cycleway, and I go through there and I see people sitting on the various areas. We've got 4 areas there you can sit on and just relax. People sitting there having a bit of lunch or some breakfast. I'm normally riding in the morning, so normally breakfast or maybe a coffee with friends. So it's actually being really well utilised, but we don't want it to be left called the Legacy Shared Pathway. It's a strange name. So Councillor Wright brought forward the idea of saying, well, let's name that something a bit more sensible or significant than just Legacy Shared Pathway. So we'll go out to the community, consult with the community, and then come back to the August council meeting with a decision on what we'll call that section. It's a 330 metre section there, and it is part of Trackaryley, but at the same time it is obviously different. There'll be usage for that than just Trackaryley, which has lots of people walking and running and riding bikes around there. So it is worthwhile naming that section something different.
Something maybe Indigenous named might be good.
That might be an option, Chris. I don't want to put ideas into the heads of the community. I want the community to come forward in that consultation with whatever ideas they want, but that would be a valid option if people bring forward ideas that have got some sort of Aboriginal context. But there's a whole range of other things. It might be a nod to the past of Dubbo. It could be whatever people put forward, and we'll then get that input from the community and make a decision.
Okay, now this one is an interesting one. You touched on it recently with me about the Dubbo RSL and the old Dubbo Bowling Club. Give us a bit of an update on that.
So Council made a final decision on Wednesday night to buy 74 Wingewarra Street. Many people will be happy about that, and including myself. That was a resolution we had of Council to buy that if we could obtain that. We'll pay $1.5 million for 74 Wingewarra Street, which is referred to by 3 different names, either 74 Wingewarra Street or the old Dubbo City Bowling Club or the Greens. So all of those are the same property, and that's the one next to the precinct where the Western Plains Cultural Centre is, and you've also got Paramount Tennis Club on the other side of that. So that's that old building there. Now, that building is not in a great state, so we'll probably have to do a few more repairs. That's being leased out to New South Wales Rugby at the moment, but at some point in time, some future plans, we'll probably knock that building down and build something else there. But again, at the moment, we'll take possession of that. At the same time, as part of that same resolution of council, we also will sell a parcel of land, 3.3 hectares of land in Keswick, to the RSL Club for $1.5 million, excuse me, same price, the $1.5 million there. And that parcel of land will be developed by the RSL Club into some form of smaller club, and again, servicing that whole area in Keswick, in South Lakes, obviously exploding population there. So that'll be a good outcome for those people in that area. Maybe they'll put some sporting fields there, not sporting fields, probably not a large number, maybe one sporting field there, but again, some sort of open green space, some sort of club, some sort of facility there to service those people up in that area there. Those 2 parcels of land started off as a land swap deal back in 2019, and that trickled away with a whole range of conditions being possibly met or not met during that process. And it wasn't that long ago that the RSL Club rescinded that land deal. They had the power to do that on that land deal. This is the same 2 parcels of land, but instead of a land swap, this will be payment of money, again, the same amount of money for each parcel of land for those 2 parcels of land. Okay,
now it's not very long before we get the local government election, and you've got a bit of an update about that.
We actually put some proposed dates in a previous resolution of council to talk about some dates. Actually, it wasn't a resolution of council, my apologies. It was at a committee meeting, a recommendation from a committee meeting to just have some dates there to say to people when it was likely that the first council meeting would be held after the election. So in essence, that would have been the mayoral election, and then some training. There were a various number of induction programs. So the idea here was to say to people, if you're thinking about standing for council and you're hoping to be elected, obviously, if you stand, I just keep aside these dates. I wouldn't plan a holiday. I wouldn't plan to go away on these dates, because if you get elected, you'll be needed on these dates. After that recommendation from our committee meetings, a circular came out from Local Government New South Wales, not Local Government New South Wales, sorry, from the Office of Local Government, and that circular said that these are some likely dates in terms of when the election would be declared. They said that because of postal votes being open for 13 days, the election being held on the 14th of September, it wouldn't be likely that the election would be declared officially until the 30th of September at the earliest. Now, we'd already planned, we didn't think it'd take that long for postal votes to be processed, etc. We actually had a date before that date when we were planning on the first mayoral election, the first council meeting. So we pushed everything back a week. So essentially, from the election day, we've now got a date in early October where that first council meeting is likely to be held. Now, this is assuming we don't have anyone in our area that asks for a recount or there's not any problems with the election. And we've seen that before, that sometimes that happens. So these aren't locked in stone. These are tentative dates that we're recommending to the community as likely to be dates that will go ahead pending the Electoral Commission making declarations around that. But it gives you a chance to plan for essentially those dates if you're planning on standing for the election.
And I'm sure you'll let us know when it's going to be official.
Well, at the time, the Electoral Commission will make those announcements. It won't be up to council because we don't run the election. The Electoral Commission, we've contracted the Electoral Commission to run the election, so they'll be the ones who officially will declare that. And then council will be able to say, we've now got a declaration, here are the elected councillors, and then the first meeting date might be the dates according to that particular resolution of council, but they may not be depending on exactly what happens.
Rightio. Now, we'll have a bit of talk about the Dubbo Aquatic Leisure Centre because they're going to be getting some refurbishments done there. Yeah,
so in the plant room there, we believe there's some work that needs to be done there, and councillors agreed and said, yes, we need to do the work in the plant room. There's a fairly tight time frame, as you can imagine, because we want the pool to be open again for the next season. So you've got that chance in the off-season to do some work. We'll do some work in that plant room there. There'll need to be some design work and then contract someone to come and do that work. It's just making it safer, making it a better working environment in that particular plant room. So call it a refurb, call it an upgrade. The only downside will be the likely timelines for that work to be done means that the swimming season may be pushed back about 2 weeks before the pool can be open for the next season. We'll let the community know as it gets closer to that date, but just keep that in the back of your mind at this stage.
No plans on enclosing the pool at all?
Not at this stage. This is really just an upgrade of the plant room, enclosing that, making it a pool, adding another pool, a lot of expense associated with that. We'll keep looking at those opportunities, but this one at this stage is just about the plant room.
Okay, well, let's hope that one day down the track we will get one where people can go swimming all year.
It would be wonderful to have that. Again, just comes down to dollars, Chris. If we do that today, we're going to be sacrificing some money somewhere else in the community.
That's the way the world works.
Exactly.
All right, so what about the Burrendong Way? It's a Safer Roads program you've got underway at the moment, and you're looking to get some people to help you there.
Well, this is just awarding a tender. So there are a number of tenders that went through, a lot of work's happening at the moment. It's a very busy local government area at the moment for a whole range of reasons, which are all good, positive reasons, but this was awarding a tender. That was part of the confidential part of the meeting, and again, with what happens there is we get information about the various organisations that have tendered for work. We look at those in a confidential session because it would be unfair to those organisations to expose the prices of all their competitors. So we look at that in a confidential session, and then ultimately we make a decision there on who is awarded that tender. That is made public. The price and the actual company that wins the tender for all tenders, both of those are made public. So we don't expose all the other prices from the other tenderers, but if I'm another tenderer, I can see, oh, okay, that's why I lost the tender because that company there was cheaper than me, or, oh, my price was pretty close to that. I wonder why they won that tender. You could make inquiries as an unsuccessful tenderer after the tender as to why you may have lost that tender. Now, again, our staff can't reveal all the details of those other tenders, but you might be able to get some feedback there, so you might be able to work on it a bit harder for the next tender. But that one there, the Burrendong Way, is just basically going forward with some of those projects to finish off various projects that are happening because, again, lots of activity around Dubbo's LGA.
And, of course, the local government election, well, that's not far away, but yes, it's an interesting time we've had, and you've had a busy day.
Well, every day is busy. There's so much happening, Chris, and even Wellington being part of the LGA, it means that myself personally as Mayor, I'm down in Wellington on a regular basis. You've also got our staff that are servicing Wellington. Some of those are based in Wellington, some are based in Dubbo. You're trying to share those resources as much as possible. But it's a really positive feeling around the LGA, Chris. There's a whole range of activity. People want to move to Dubbo. There's a lot of people moving to Dubbo. People, in terms of businesses, are always calling out for more employees because their businesses are going well. So there is cost of living pressure on individuals. There's no doubt about that at all. But living in regional areas eases that pressure a little bit. Just cost of housing is cheaper, obviously. But then when you look at some of the activities happening in Dubbo in particular, our renewable energy zone is generating activity. We've got lots of successful businesses out here. So things are very positive at the moment, which is fantastic to see.
Well, it's good to know that things are starting to happen at our local council level and getting jobs done around town.
Exactly right. Getting the jobs done. That's exactly what we're doing, Chris. Getting work done.
Well, thank you for coming into DCFM 88.9.
Always my pleasure, Chris. Good to chat.
All right, well, we're going to get back into some more music for you in just a second, right after this on your local community radio station here in Dubbo.